10 Worst Drug Addicts in Hollywood History. Here goes Fans Channel Vote. Are you a fan of classic Hollywood films, ranging from epics to lighthearted comedies? These movies will forever hold a special place in our hearts. However, there's a much darker side to some of these films that we may not have realized. Let's take a closer look at some dark secrets about drug addiction during the golden age of Hollywood. The 10 worst drug addicts in Hollywood history are about to be revealed. And guess what? These names are based on your requests. So don't miss out till the very end to find your favorite star. Number 10. Amy Winehouse. Let's rewind the clock to a decade ago when the world was shaken by the news of Amy Winehouse's untimely death at the age of 27. British tabloids had a field day, spinning stories about her tragic end. The Sunday People claimed she had been seen purchasing a cocktail of drugs including cocaine, heroin, ecstasy, and ketamine. The Sunday Mirror pointed fingers at an ecstasy overdose, dubbing it an obviously dodgy pill. The Washington Post even dubbed her a drug-haunted diva in bold headlines. But let's peel back the layers and uncover the reality, which was sadder and far more complex. Contrary to the sensational headlines, Amy had actually been drug-free for 3 years leading up to her passing. Amy's journey was marked by both incredible talent and undeniable turmoil. Growing up in London, she faced early challenges as her parents split when she was just 9. Her father's affair led to the breakup, leaving scars not only in her family but on her own arms as she turned to self-harm. Her rebellious spirit emerged as she smoked marijuana and played hooky from school. At 14, antidepressants entered the picture and she picked up a guitar, giving birth to her songwriting talent. The darkness of her mental health struggles was further mirrored in her battle with bulimia. As her star began to rise, so did her troubles. Fame brought its own set of challenges, and Amy's perception of herself was distorted by the media's portrayal of her as curvy. She wrestled body image issues and embarked on a dangerous diet. Then came Blake Fielder Civil, a man who would change the course of Amy's life. Love took hold, and she found herself entangled in a relationship that introduced her to heroin. A heartbreaking decision to be on his level led her down a treacherous path. The headlines painted a damning picture of her life, punching fans, arrests, and erratic behavior. But amid the chaos, there were moments of triumph. She overcame her drug addiction in 2008, a feat that defied doctors' predictions. In the midst of her struggles, Amy continued to share her soul through music. Her iconic album, Back to Black, captured hearts and garnered Grammy nominations, though visa issues prevented her from attending the ceremony. She accepted an award via satellite, expressing her gratitude and her turmoil at the same time. Through the ups and downs, Amy fought to overcome her demons. In her final days, she spoke of her desire to leave behind the destructive drinking that had haunted her. But her battle with bulimia remained a silent adversary, one that may have ultimately played a role in her tragic end. On that fateful morning, Amy was found in her London flat, laptop nearby, vodka bottles strewn about. Her blood alcohol level was shockingly high. The cause of death? Alcohol poisoning after binge drinking following a period of abstinence. Number 9. Michael Jackson. The king of pop, Michael Jackson, became an instant icon with his music and dance moves. But behind the dazzling spotlight was a haunting tale of addiction and tragedy. In a recent documentary, shocking revelations surfaced about Jackson's desperate attempts to fuel his addiction. It's staggering to learn that he used up to 19 fake IDs to procure drugs. His demise in June 2009 sent shockwaves around the globe. But the truth behind his death was both heartbreaking and infuriating. At the age of 50, Jackson's life was cut short when he was found unresponsive in his Los Angeles home. The culprit? The anesthetic propofol, administered by his physician Conrad Murray. The tragedy was ruled a homicide, and Murray took the fall, serving a prison sentence for involuntary manslaughter. Jackson's battle with addiction began long before that fateful day. A haunting incident during a Pepsi commercial shot in 1984, pyrotechnics accidentally set Jackson's hair on fire, causing second-degree burns to his scalp and a prescription for opioids to ease his excruciating pain. Later, Jackson would attribute the fire to the beginning of his experience with drug addiction. In one statement, he said, I remain out of the country. I've been undergoing treatment for dependency on pain medication. This medication was initially prescribed to soothe the excruciating pain that I was suffering after recent reconstructive surgery on my scalp. Seeking help, Jackson entered rehab in 1993 and embraced a 12-step program. Yet, addiction's grip proved stubborn, lurking in the shadows throughout his life. By 2009, his daily routine included powerful opioids like OxyContin, along with Demerol and other medications. His body bore the scars of intravenous drug use. In the midst of this turmoil, those closest to him tried to intervene, staging heartfelt interventions and expressing genuine concern. However, Jackson's denial cast a heavy shadow, and he turned away from the helping hands that reached out to him. As his life tragically came to an end, the combination of sedatives and propofol prescribed by his doctor for insomnia proved fatal. Propofol, a potent anesthetic, requires meticulous monitoring due to its impact on blood pressure and breathing. His doctor's conviction for involuntary manslaughter was a grim testament to the consequences of Jackson's addiction. Number 8. Robert Downey Jr. The journey of Robert Downey Jr., the charismatic and talented actor we know today, was a lifetime of turmoil fueled by his addictions. Born into a world of cinema in 1965, Downey Jr.'s early years were colored by his father's own battles with substance abuse. At a shockingly tender age of 8, he took his first step into the realm of drugs, introduced by none other than his father, allowing him to try marijuana at a party. As a result of this early exposure to drugs, Downey Jr. spent most nights getting drunk and scouting dealers throughout his 20s and 30s. As the 1980s dawned, Downey Jr. ventured to the City of Angels with dreams of acting stardom. His role in Weird Science thrust him into the spotlight as part of the Brat Pack, an iconic group of young actors. Yet, behind the scenes, a darker narrative was unfolding. In 1987, Downey Jr.'s powerful portrayal of a troubled youth in Less Than Zero foreshadowed his own inner demons. Despite earning an Oscar nomination for his remarkable depiction of Charlie Chaplin in 1992's Chaplin, addiction began to overshadow his burgeoning career. The mid-90s marked a turning point as Downey Jr. plunged into a bottomless abyss of heroin and cocaine use. Arrests and rehab stints punctuated his downward spiral, painting a grim picture of a man trapped by his own vices. The summer of 1996 became a dark crescendo, with multiple arrests culminating in surreal instances of drug-infused recklessness. This included one incident when police stopped him for speeding and found him not only intoxicated, but with heroin and cocaine on him, and an unloaded .356 Magnum in his passenger seat. He was picked up by police again shortly after wandering into a neighbor's home and passing out in their son's room. Downey Jr.'s downward spiral began here. "I was just playing a game of wanting to appease myself or stay high before I accepted the fact that things had gotten out of control," said Robert. "Honestly, and more than anything, I look back on it and think that's awesome, that's where a finished movie could come from." When his mother died from ALS in 1994, he and his father had a pivotal moment in their recovery. "Even if it takes another 20 years to get back to being a person, you and Laura became a point of stability," he said. Number 7. Prince. The untimely passing of Prince revealed a darker undercurrent that had lurked in the background. As the curtains closed on his life at the age of 57, the enigmatic artist left behind a legacy tainted by a struggle with opioid painkillers. The tragic discovery of his lifeless body in an elevator in Paisley Park sent shockwaves through the music industry, leaving a void that could never be filled. In the wake of his passing, the shroud of mystery surrounding his demise began to unravel, revealing a haunting truth. Prince had been wrestling with the relentless grip of opioid addiction, a battle that would ultimately claim his life. Newly unsealed documents peeled back the layers of his torment, shedding light on the extent of his addiction. Withdrawal symptoms had recently plagued him. Amidst the investigation, a startling revelation emerged: a prescription for the potent opioid painkiller oxycodone, issued under the name of his loyal bodyguard, Kirk Johnson. The prescription, dated April 14, 2016, coincided with a fateful day when Prince was resuscitated from the brink of oblivion after falling ill on a plane. Dr. Michael Schullenberg, the prescriber, explained that the decision to use Johnson's name was rooted in safeguarding Prince's privacy. Despite this, Prince's tragic fate remained unchanged. The echoes of his demise reverberated through legal proceedings, with assertions and denials echoing across the courtroom. Schulenberg adamantly maintained that his intentions were pure, disavowing any direct or indirect contribution to Prince's demise. Similarly, Johnson's attorney asserted his client's innocence, denying any involvement in facilitating the drugs that led to the artist's fatal overdose. In the end, an autopsy revealed the bitter truth. Prince's life had been claimed by the clutches of fentanyl, a hauntingly potent member of the opioid family. Number 6. Margaret Sullivan. A luminary of the silver screen, Margaret Sullivan excelled on stage and screen. Yet beneath the radiant veneer of her fame, a tumultuous battle with mental health and substance abuse raged, casting a shadow over her illustrious career. Born in 1909 to a privileged family in Norfolk, Virginia, Margaret Brooks Sullivan's journey into the spotlight was marked by early success and intricate relationships. Her acting prowess illuminated Broadway stages, capturing the hearts of audiences alongside iconic figures like Henry Fonda and James Stewart. It was within these luminous moments that love blossomed, leading her to marriage to Henry Fonda. As fate would have it, the tides of romance shifted and a new chapter unfurled as Sullivan embarked on a journey with director William Wyler. Their relationship, though impactful, eventually waned, leading Sullivan to her third husband, Leland Hayward. The bond they shared bore fruit in the form of 3 children. However, the enigmatic clouds of mental health issues hovered over Sullivan's life, painting a complex portrait of her struggles. Her daughter, Brooke Hayward, illuminated the depths of these challenges in the poignant memoir Haywire, offering a candid glimpse into a life touched by fragility and resilience. The echoes of a nervous breakdown resonated throughout time, casting a somber light on a woman who dazzled the world. Tragedy struck in 1960 when Sullivan's life was tragically cut short by an accidental overdose of barbiturates. In 2013, the Hollywood Walk of Fame paid homage to Margaret Sullivan, a belated recognition of her contributions to the cinematic realm. Number 5. Lenny Bruce. Lenny Bruce, the outrageous comedic trailblazer, carved his name into history with a unique brand of humor that both challenged and unsettled societal norms. However, as time marched on, his once edgy routines evolved into a fixation on his tumultuous legal battles, each arrest etching a new chapter into his narrative. In 1963, a Californian court intervened, mandating Bruce's entry into a rehab facility to tackle his amphetamine addiction. These stimulants were initially prescribed to combat the lethargy inflicted by his hepatitis, yet the shadow of heroin loomed larger, stealthily becoming his primary demon. The year 1965 saw Bruce confined to his abode, grappling with his inner demons. The weight of legal turmoil and financial woes exacerbated his substance struggles, culminating tragically in August 1966. Bruce, amid an appeal for his New York conviction, met his untimely end due to an accidental overdose of morphine, a haunting testament to the depths of addiction. Assistant D.A. Cuccia, a prosecutor from Bruce's New York trial, shared a somber revelation, admitting culpability for the comedian's demise. Regret laced his words. "We drove him into poverty and bankruptcy and then murdered him. It's the only thing I did in Hogan's office that I'm really ashamed of. We all knew what we were doing. We used the law to kill him." Yet Bruce's legacy surged beyond his life's confines. Posthumously, his name evolved from a rallying cry for fringe intellectuals to an icon embraced by comedy circles and mainstream society alike. His advocacy for the First Amendment found a potent embodiment in his story. The passage of almost 4 decades following his death led to a remarkable exoneration. In 2003, New York Governor George Pataki's Pardoning Act not only exculpated Bruce but also underscored the state's staunch commitment to safeguarding free expression. Number 4. Wallace Reid. Wallace Reid and Dorothy Davenport, a dynamic duo of their era, illuminated the silver screen with their multifaceted talents. Wallace, affectionately known as Wally, was the quintessential American figure. His Princeton education and versatile acting prowess crowned him the king of Paramount. Alongside him stood Dorothy, a former child star who blossomed under D.W. Griffith's guidance and dazzled audiences at Universal. Their union blended not only love but shared passions for writing, directing, and producing, hailing from storied theatrical lineages. Their love story began on the set of His Only Son in 1912, culminating in marriage on October 13, 1913. In 1920, their vision took tangible form as they crafted an enchanting Italianate mansion nestled at 8327 de Longor Avenue, overlooking the expanse towards the its red-tiled roof and a glistening swimming pool reinforced the mansion's allure, making it a place of cinematic dreams. However, as they crafted their idyllic haven, the seeds of Wally's undoing had already been sown. The threads of his demise were woven during the filming of The Valley of the Giants, where an on-set injury led to an administration of morphine to keep him on schedule. The allure of stardom and production schedules prompted the studio to provide him with a steady supply of drugs, ensnaring him in a perilous cycle. Dorothy, initially unaware, unraveled the truth in 1921. Dorothy's strength came to the fore when she guided Wally through rehab during breaks between films. While he seemingly overcame his morphine addiction in 1922, the struggle had left an indelible mark. Wally's health deteriorated, prompting Dorothy to educate herself about the scourge of drug abuse. Refusing to veil Wally's struggles, she courageously unveiled the truth, becoming an unwitting advocate. On a somber January day in 1923, Dorothy held Wally as he took his final breath within the confines of a sanitarium. Embracing her newfound mantle, she strode outside to face an array of microphones from radio networks across the nation. Poised and resolute, she introduced herself to the listeners in an unwavering tone. "This is Mrs. Wallace Reid." Throughout her days, Dorothy tirelessly championed the truth about addiction, steadfastly holding on to her identity as Mrs. Wallace Reid. Number 3. Bela Lugosi. Bela Lugosi, a name synonymous with horror cinema, battled demons that stretched beyond the silver screen. His final years were a tragic saga of addiction and the harsh glare of tabloid scrutiny. The descent into the clutches of morphine began innocently in 1935 under the guidance of a doctor. However, the allure of methadone, a novel drug he encountered during a trip to England 17 years later, proved to be his undoing. Lugosi brought back a treasure trove of the drug, triggering a downward spiral that left him gaunt, penniless, and bereft of his former vitality. In a candid admission to the United Press, he bared the raw truth of his affliction. "I just took the drugs. I didn't eat. I got sicker and sicker," he confessed. The toll was unforgiving, depleting his finances to the brink of ruin. Lugosi's desperate plight compelled him to enter a state hospital in 1955. His battle scars were etched not only on his body but also in the creases of his soul. Through the darkness of addiction, he fought valiantly, longing to reclaim his lost self. Emerging from the hospital's confines, Lugosi's frail frame belied the indomitable spirit that once graced the silver screen. The specter of addiction lingered, a relentless shadow that he could not fully shake. On August 16, 1956, at the age of 73, Lugosi succumbed to a heart attack, drawing the curtain on a life that had been both illustrious and tumultuous. As he was laid to rest in Holy Cross Cemetery in Culver City, California, Lugosi was shrouded in the cape that had transformed him into the iconic Dracula. It was a fitting homage to the character that had immortalized him, a reminder of the cinematic magic he had woven. Yet beyond the cape, his legacy bore the scars of a different battle, one fought far from the silver screen. For his Hollywood days, Lugosi answered the call of duty during World War I. Despite his exemption as a working actor, he volunteered and became a lieutenant in the 43rd Royal Hungarian Infantry. The battlefield became his stage, and his dedication earned him a medal for his unwavering service. Wounded and weathered, Lugosi emerged from the war's crucible with both physical and emotional scars, a foreshadowing of the challenges that lay ahead. In the twilight of his life, Lugosi's struggle with addiction painted a public portrait of torment. Divorced and destitute, he sought refuge within the walls of Los Angeles General Hospital psychopathic ward, seeking respite from the clutches of methadone and morphine. Number 2. Hunter S. Thompson. Hunter S. Thompson, the enigmatic writer known for his unconventional lifestyle and groundbreaking prose, lived a daily routine that defied conventional and embraced excess. Chronicled by journalist E. Jean Carroll in her book Hunter, The Strange and Savage Life of Hunter S. Thompson, Thompson's daily regimen was a kaleidoscope of substances and activities that fueled his unique creative process. Here's a glimpse into his daily routine. Thompson's day commenced at an unconventional hour with a 3 p.m. rise. The morning ritual, however, was anything but ordinary. It began with a Chivas Regal accompanied by morning papers and Dunhill cigarettes. The routine swiftly spiraled into a symphony of cocaine punctuated by coffee, orange juice, and more Chivas. Cocaine was his constant companion, with its presence noted every few minutes on the schedule. As the day unfolded, Thompson's consumption continued unabated. He indulged in Heineken margaritas, coleslaw, taco salad, fried onion rings, carrot cake, and more, all accompanied by an array of substances from cocaine to grass. The afternoon transitioned to evening, marked by more cocaine and the onset of serious drug consumption, including acid and chartreuse. As the clock struck midnight, Thompson's creative genius ignited. Fueled by chartreuse, cocaine, grass, and a medley of other stimulants, he immersed himself in his work. The hot tub provided a surreal interlude where champagne, Dove bars, and fettuccine Alfredo were indulged amidst continuous pornographic movies. The day's crescendo led to the tranquil embrace of halcyon, beckoning sleep at 8:20 a.m. Thompson's life was a paradox where chaos and creation intermingled seamlessly. His reliance on substances was notorious, leading him to famously remark, "I hate to advocate drugs, alcohol, violence, or insanity to anyone, but they've always worked for me." Thompson, who committed suicide at 67, was of course known for his heavy drinking and drug habit, and they were both ingrained in his writing. Number 1. Edie Sedgwick. Edie Sedgwick, a captivating figure of the 1960s, embodied both beauty and tragedy in her short, eventful life. As the muse of Andy Warhol and a symbol of the era's cultural revolution, Sedgwick's outward allure concealed a profound inner turmoil. Edie came from a long line of prominent Americans, but as her 19th century ancestor Henry Sedgwick noted, depression was the family disease. Her father, Francis Minturn Duke Sedgwick, was the boss of a 3,000-acre cattle ranch in Santa Barbara called Carl de Coetti. Francis and his wife Alice had 8 children despite being cautioned against having children due to Francis's mental illness. But the children were largely left to their own devices. He and her sisters made up their own games, roamed the ranch alone, and even lived in a separate house from their parents. "We were taught in a weird way," recalled Edie's brother Jonathan, "so that when we got out into the world, we didn't fit in anywhere. Nobody could understand us." Edie's childhood was also marked by sexual abuse. Her father, she later claimed, first had sex with her when she was just 7 years old. One of her brothers also allegedly propositioned her, telling Edie a sister and a brother should teach each other the rules and the game of making love. Edie's childhood was fractured on more than one occasion. She developed disorders like anorexia and bulimia, and when she walked in on her father with another woman, he responded by hitting her, giving her tranquilizers, and telling her, "You don't know anything, you're insane." Soon afterward, Edie's parents shipped her off to a psychiatric hospital called Silver Hill in Connecticut. Despite her privileged upbringing, Sedgwick's early years were marred by abuse and isolation, fostering a foundation of mental illness, eating disorders, and drug addiction. Her iconic style, characterized by short hair, dark makeup, and daring fashion, captivated attention, but her personal struggles remained concealed beneath the surface. In the shadows of her public persona, Sedgwick turned to drugs to cope with her pain. Her tumultuous romantic involvement with Bob Dylan and subsequent relationships with Bobby Newirth provided little solace. She confessed to feeling like a sex slave to Newirth, a dependency that led her to rely on drugs as an escape. While her fame soared, her addiction cast a dark cloud over her prospects. Despite a Vogue cover shoot and accolades, Sedgwick's drug abuse hindered her integration into the world of high fashion. The destructive drugs on creative individuals made many cautious, leaving Sedgwick on the outskirts of mainstream acceptance. Sedgwick's descent continued as she grappled with addiction and mental instability. The filming of Chow Manhattan was plagued by her health struggles, testament to the toll her drug use had taken. Even amidst personal trials, she managed to find love and marry Michael post-1971. Yet just as swiftly as her meteoric rise, Sedgwick's life ended tragically. On November 16, 1971, she was discovered lifeless beside her husband, a victim of a barbiturate overdose. She was only 8 years old. Her own words captured her essence. "I'm in love with everyone I've ever met in one way or another. I'm just a crazy, unhinged disaster of a human being." We must never forget these untold stories, fans, because they offer a glimpse into the shadows that lurk beneath fame's spotlight.